Hello, today we have another fabulous webinar conducted by Alex Barthet from the Barthet Law Firm. Today's webinar is going to discuss do this one thing to improve your collections this year. I'm Ariella Wagner, founder of SunRay Construction Solutions, a national preliminary notice service, and we are excited to kick off our first webinar of 2019. So without further ado, I introduce Alex Barthet.
Thanks, Ariella. My name is Alex Barthet. I am a board-certified construction lawyer here in Florida. And today we're going to talk about the one thing you need to do to improve your collections this year. So let's get started. So on today's agenda, we're going to talk about shoring up the basics, always protecting your interests and how to do that. And then we're going to talk about the one thing that you need to do no matter what. If you have any questions, you can submit them through the GoToMeeting chat box. They'll be collected at the end, and we'll go ahead and answer all of those questions. Make sure that you do not include any names of people or companies in your questions. So let's get started. So let's talk about the basics. So this is something that is worth repeating so that everyone understands the importance of it. So number one, with respect to your credit and collections, get it in writing. It still surprises me when people come to my office and they don't have any writing supporting their claim or their contract. So whether it's a proposal, an estimate, a credit application, it doesn't matter. Having a writing is almost always better than not having a writing. You want to try to use your terms versus their terms, meaning that you should take a little time to put together an agreement. It can be simple so that it covers the terms that are important to you. If someone hands you their contract, it's going to be something that is probably intended to protect them. So what are some of the terms that you should be aware of? Payment terms, how and when will you be paid? Watch out for pay when paid language. Interest, collection costs like recovering legal fees, and a very important provision to have in your contract. What's the warranty on the goods and services that you're selling? Do you have an indemnity obligation? Or are you going to expect an indemnity from the other side? So if anything goes wrong, you can look back to them and say, well, you need to protect me because of this incident. Access to the site. Sounds simple, but sometimes access to the site may be an issue that creates a dispute. It'd be nice if that was set forth in your agreement. And then time for performance and what happens if there's a delay. These are some basic provisions, again, that you likely, that I strongly recommend that you cover in any written agreement that you have with the other side. It's good to audit your existing accounts and get new agreements as needed. We represent a large supply house, and occasionally, every 5 to 10 years, they may make some significant changes to their credit application. And what they do is they have their salespeople go out and see their customers and get new credit agreements executed so that it covers the new terms as the agreement has been changed and improved. Here's a pro tip for you, which runs counter to everything I just said. Sometimes no contract is better than the other side's contract. Let me give you an example of what I mean. We represented an electrician who was negotiating a contract but started work on a job before the contract was executed. The end of the first month comes by and they pick up their check. The end of the second month comes by and the contractor says, look, if you're not going to sign our contract, then you're not getting your next check. Well, they didn't like the contract that was presented to them by the contractor, but they felt that if they didn't sign the contract, they wouldn't get their check. That is not always true. You still have an agreement, and that agreement is whatever the verbal understanding is between the parties. Probably much better than the harsh terms that exist in a contract that's many pages long that the other side gives you. So, unfortunately, what they did is they signed the contract with all of the contractor's terms and conditions, and that led to many issues and a dispute in the future. What they should have done is said, I'm not signing that contract. If you're not going to give me the check, I'll just lien the job today, and then we'll fight about it later. It would have limited their risk. So keep that in mind sometimes. Don't be bullied into signing a contract that you are not comfortable with. Next, cap the credit that you provide, and this allows you to limit the exposure by limiting the credit that you give. Also a very important thing to do. It'd be better to be owed $5,000 or $10,000 than $20,000, $30,000, $50,000, $100,000. You need to actually cut off your customer. Talking about it and then continuing to extend credit doesn't do it. You actually have to cut them off, assuming you have the legal right to do that. Always extend additional credit carefully, because most folks in construction will take as much credit as you're willing to give them. So be very careful on how much credit you're willing to extend. Next, bill regularly. If you don't send a bill, the other side doesn't think they have to pay you. So make sure that you send bills promptly and timely. The customer should be able to set their watch to getting your bills. Very important. If there's an item that's in dispute, consider billing for it and then maybe giving a credit for prompt payment. Because if you don't bill for it, if you have to litigate the case, a judge is going to wonder, well, why are you telling me you're owed this money and you never sent them a bill? So keep that in mind when you think about not sending a bill for some services or materials that you provide. So let's talk about next how to protect your interests. Always, 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 you want to secure your right to get paid. There are many ways to do this when you extend credit this year. So one is a personal guarantee. You can get the principal of a company to give you a guarantee that says that if the company doesn't pay, that they will pay. Another type of security interest you can get is a joint check agreement. Know that not all joint check agreements are created equal. If this is something that you are considering getting, especially on a regular basis, you should prepare your own or have a lawyer prepare your own joint check agreement that protects you. Contractors have their own joint check agreements that protect them. So if you're the supplier to an electrician and you want additional security, so you say to the electrician, I need a joint check agreement on this job, and you just take the joint check agreement that the contractor gives you, you may not be as protected as you think if you don't read the terms and conditions of that joint check agreement. Always consider and protect your construction, lien, or bond rights. So let's go over the rules very quickly. You need to serve a notice to owner, and it needs to be in the owner's hand no later than 45 days from the time you start work. You can send the notice early, it just cannot be received later than 45 days from when you first started work. And 45 days is the outside most date. You should be doing it much, much sooner than that. Next, within 90 days of your last work, you need to record your claim of lien or serve your notice of non-payment on the contractor and the surety. Again, 90 days is the outside deadline. You can record a lien while you're still working on the job. You can record a lien 3 days after you finish the job. You don't have to wait until the end. But if you do, know that the outside deadline is 90 days from your last work. And then finally, you need to file a lawsuit on your lien or bond claim within a year. Now, there's a slight difference in the rules between liens and bond claims, so let me talk about them briefly. You need to file a lawsuit to foreclose on your lien within 1 year of the recording date of the claim of lien. So that is potentially you finish your work, you have up to 90 days to record the lien, and then from the time you record it, you have 1 more year, and you have to file suit. Now, again, you don't have to wait the year. You can file the lawsuit 2 days after you record the lien. If you have a bond claim, a notice of non-payment, you need to file the lawsuit against the surety no later than 1 year from your last work. So you don't have that little buffer of how many days you had from the time that you finished work until the time that you served your notice of non-payment. So be aware of that, that distinction. And again, you can do it early, and I would strongly recommend that you don't wait a full year. Little pro tip here, if you're going to get a guarantee and you have serious reservations about the ability of this debtor to pay, you would like to get the husband and the wife on the guarantee. And the reason is that in Florida, any property or bank accounts or assets that are held jointly between the husband and wife are not going to be available to you to collect on if all you have is one spouse and not the other on your guarantee. So if you want to be able to get joint assets between the husband and wife, they both need to be on the guarantee. We have an app that is available on the App Store. You just search for The Lien Zone, which is our blog, TheLienzone, for Androids or Apple phones, and it'll help you calculate that 45 and 90-day deadline. So check that out. Okay, so what is the thing that you need to do? You need to be a collections bulldog. Absolutely critical for you to be persistent, aggressive, and polite in your collection process. The most successful clients of ours that collect their own debts and use us very, very little are those that have a collections team that is very, very persistent and aggressive. So let's talk about how to be a collections bulldog. So you want to contact delinquent accounts often. Do the obvious. Contact the account holder all the time. Do it verbally. Do it in writing. Be nice but firm, but do it. And you need to do it very often. Don't take excuses about payment, especially if those excuses continue over and over again. But do offer options. So accept various methods of payment. I would strongly encourage you to accept credit cards, take PayPal, checks, wires, all of those ways of accepting payment that make it easier for your customer to pay you are things that you need to be able to accept. Payment terms. Maybe they can't pay you all the money now, so maybe they can pay you $1,000 a week, $2,000 a month. Come up with something that works. Try to work down the debt. Be creative in the approach that you take. Collecting any money is better than collecting no money. And sometimes debtors believe that, well, I owe you $10,000, so unless I can pay you all $10,000, I'm just going to ignore you. If you open up the possibility that you're willing to take $500 a week until the debt is paid off, then they may take you up on that and be appreciative for the opportunity. Always take partial payments, but don't give up your rights by signing a lien release if that partial payment is accompanied with a release. So if you are owed $25,000 and they have a $5,000 payment and they want you to sign a release, you just need to make sure that the through date on that release matches the $5,000 you're getting, that you're not releasing all of your rights or more of your rights than the money that you're getting. Consider getting additional security at the point in time that someone owes you money. So for example, you could say, look, we're going to have to send this to legal. It's going to get expensive, but maybe instead you pay me $1,000 a month and give me a personal guarantee or a joint check agreement on this job. Again, it's about being creative in your approach to try to collect the money that's owed to you. Always remember that the squeaky wheel gets the grease. The more you call, the more you write, the more they're going to want to take care of your account versus the potentially many other accounts that they have to deal with that may be delinquent as well. Next, resolve disputes quickly and in writing. Maybe your product, your materials or your service was late, maybe it was damaged. Try to resolve these issues quickly on your own. It's always better to give a small credit in exchange for a prompt payment and move on. So here's a pro tip on how to do this. Do not give an unconditional credit on the account for the issue that they are complaining about. You want to expressly condition in writing, which can be an email, the reduction of the amount due by based on payment by a date certain. So let's say they owe you $25,000 and they're claiming that some of the product arrived damaged and you've agreed to take a $3,000 credit on the account. Don't just issue a $3,000 credit. Send them an email that says, I apologize for the issues you have. There's a $25,000 debt on your account. We are willing to accept a discount of $3,000, so you only have to pay us $22,000, so long as we receive the $22,000 by February 1st. Then, if the payment doesn't arrive, then you can unwind the credit in the future. If you issue an unconditional credit, then you're going to have to live with that credit. You can't undo it later because the judge is going to say, well, this credit was not conditioned on prompt payment, so I'm not going to allow you to undo your accounting because you decided to sue them. So expressly condition the reduction of the debt on payment by a date certain. Next, always avoid emotional decision making. Leave your emotions at the door. Make business decisions. Emotions, when it comes to having to deal with a legal matter, always make the process take longer and cost more money. Don't delay in initiating the legal process. The longer you wait to enforce your legal rights, sometimes the harder it is to protect your legal rights. So the sooner, the better at making sure that you record your lien, file a lawsuit to foreclose on that lien, suing someone for breaching the agreement or credit application or personal guarantee. After you've attempted all of the things that we've talked about to get paid, if they don't work, waiting is usually not going to improve the chances of getting paid. So just start the process, and if you've made the business decision, that's in your best interest to do. So if you have any questions about any of the things that we've covered, go ahead and submit them in the GoTo webinar chat box. While we wait for that, let's talk about the upcoming webinars and seminars that we have. The next seminar we have is on February 12th from 8 to 11 in Boca Raton at the Renaissance Hotel. It is a 3-hour deep dive into liens, bonds, contract provisions, all with the focus of how to get paid. We'll answer all of your questions. We typically get lots of folks at these events. So if you're interested, make sure you sign up early. The next webinar, and we do these webinars once a month, is on February 21st from 9 to 9:20, and it's titled the top 3 avoidable lien release mistakes. We'll talk about some of the mistakes that I see clients make when they are hoping to release, to give a release and get a check, as well as some of the mistakes they make if they are giving checks and getting releases. You can sign up for all of these events on the sunraynotice.com website, sunraynotice.com/education. So Ariella, do we have any questions?
You did such a brilliant job that we don't have any questions, but just in case we do, on this slide, you'll see Alex's contact details as well as my contact details, so you could certainly write them down. And if you have a question that you think of later, please feel free to send either of us an email. And Alex, you did an absolutely sensational job as always.
Thank you.
And I hope everyone has a wonderful day.
Yep. Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks.